and given him the name which is above every name. And what is the name that is above every name? No, it's not Jesus. The name that is above every name that is given to Jesus is the name Kyrios, the Greek translation of Adonai. That is the name of Jesus, who now has this exalted title that belongs only to God. Every time you hear the name Jesus, who is now Adonai, Kyrios, every knee bows. Every tongue confesses that he is Adonai, to the glory of God the Father. That's why some renditions and texts of the New Testament indicate that what was being envisioned here by Isaiah was the second person of the Trinity, the pre-incarnate Christ, perhaps. I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high, lifted up, high in majesty, lifted up in exaltation. Not just a matter of geographical suspension somewhere in the air, but I saw him in regal splendor, with the refulgence of his glory emanating from him in this position. And the train of his robe filled the temple. Well, so what? Well, in the ancient world, the relative power and magnificence and munificence of various rulers were communicated by the fabric and the size of their royal gowns. Some wore wool gowns, others had chinchilla, others mink, others ermine, with various precious dyes associated with them. But above all, it was the length of the robe that determined the status of the king. You know, I'm looking around this room, and there's some people in here old enough to remember where they were and what they were doing when they heard the news of the assassination of President Kennedy. How many of you? All right, at least a third of you. I can remember where I was and what I was doing when I heard the announcement of the death of FDR. How many of you can join me with that? Okay. How many remember the day Mussolini was killed? Yes, all right. But I also remember vividly the first transcontinental television production I ever saw, and where I saw it. I saw it in Vesta's basement when I was in the 8th grade. We were excused from school to see this international event of such importance, the coronation of the beautiful young Princess Elizabeth to be the Queen of Great Britain. And only the British have the skill at pomp and circumstance of any nation. And here, Elizabeth enters into Westminster Abbey for a coronation. And you see this spectacle of this young princess proceeding down the center aisle where the Archbishop of Canterbury is waiting. And she has a gown whose train is so long that it requires several pages to walk behind her, holding her gown as she comes. It's fantastic. The only thing that I remember seeing of like magnitude was when I stood the front of the church in the sanctuary, standing next to the pastor and my best man. And I saw the back door open. and my bride begin to walk down the aisle. How magnificent was the train of her wedding gown. But that was a subjective appreciation on my part. You see, what Isaiah didn't see was Queen Elizabeth at her coronation. She saw Adonai high and lifted up, where the train of his robe furled down over the side of his throne and continued out into the nave. And if there were pews, it would have enveloped and encompassed every pew, every square inch of the temple was filled by the heavenly robe of God. What a vision to see that. Above him stood the seraphim. With this anatomical description, each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face. With 2 he covered his feet. And with 2 he flew. Do you notice that when God makes creatures, he constructs them in a way that is fitting for their habitat?